Picture this. A private jet is delayed 4 hours on the tarmac. Everyone on that plane is annoyed. Half of them are on the phone complaining to someone. But there's one person sitting in the back, laptop open, completely calm, working like nothing happened. That person is worth $11 billion. And here's the strange part. He's not calm because he's rich. He's rich in part because he's calm. If you've ever wondered why the most successful people on the planet seem almost incapable of complaining, no rants, no venting, no "why does this always happen to me?" Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand the exact mental operating system that separates people who build empires from people who just talk about building them. This is Billionaire Vibes, and today we're breaking down one of the most underrated traits of extreme wealth, the complete absence of complaint. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Most people complain constantly. Traffic, weather, co-workers, the economy, their boss, their body, their bank account. It's practically the default setting of the human mind because complaining feels good in the short term. It releases a tiny hit of relief. You get to feel like the universe has wronged you, and for a second, that feels better than accepting responsibility. But here's what almost nobody tells you about complaining. It doesn't just fail to fix the problem. It actively rewires your brain to expect more problems. Neuroscientists have studied this for years. The brain operates on pattern recognition. Every time you complain, you're reinforcing a neural pathway that says, "This is what happens to me." You're training your own mind to notice more evidence that supports the complaint and to filter out anything that contradicts it. It's like feeding a machine the exact instructions you don't want it to follow, and then being shocked when it follows them anyway. Billionaires figured this out, some through therapy, some through books, some just through decades of hard-won experience, long before neuroscience had the language to explain it. They understood something simple. Complaining is a tax you pay for the privilege of feeling like a victim. And nobody who has ever built something massive can afford to feel like a victim, because victims don't build things. Victims explain why things can't be built. Now, I want to be clear about something, because this is where people usually misunderstand this mindset. This isn't about suppressing emotion. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Billionaires get frustrated, they get angry, they have brutal days just like you do. The difference isn't that they don't feel it. The difference is what they do with the feeling in the next 10 seconds. A regular person feels frustration and immediately verbalizes it as a complaint. A billionaire feels frustration and immediately converts it into a question. Okay, what do I do about this? That single redirect from complaint to question is worth more than any business degree. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because there's actually a documented psychological term for this shift, and once you learn it, you will start noticing it in every successful person you study for the rest of your life. It's called an internal locus of control, and understanding this one concept will change how you see literally every setback in your life from this point forward. Psychologists split people into two broad camps. The first camp has what's called an external locus of control. These are people who believe outcomes in their life are mostly determined by outside forces, luck, other people, the government, the economy, bad timing, unfair bosses. When something goes wrong, their brain automatically searches for the external cause. And once you've found an external cause, complaining is the only logical response, because if the problem is out there, the only thing left to do is talk about how unfair out there is. The second camp has an internal locus of control. These people believe that no matter what happens externally, their response, their decisions, and their effort are what actually determine the outcome. When something goes wrong, their brain doesn't search for someone to blame, it searches for a lever to pull. Almost every self-made billionaire you can name operates overwhelmingly from the second camp, not because they were born that way, but because they trained it, often through painful experience, often through failure after failure that would have destroyed someone still living in the external mindset. Think about it logically for a second. If you genuinely believed your success was controlled by outside forces, would you ever take the insane risks required to build a company from nothing? Would you sink your savings into an idea that 90% of experts would tell you is doomed? Of course not. You'd wait for the right conditions, the right luck, the right permission. Billionaires don't wait for permission. They assume, almost arrogantly, that whatever stands between them and the outcome they want is something they can move, build around, or outwork. That assumption is uncomfortable. It's actually kind of unfair to say out loud because it puts 100% of the responsibility back on you. No one wants to hear it's on you when they're having a hard time. But here's the trade-off nobody talks about. The moment you accept that discomfort, you gain something enormous in return. You gain the ability to act. Because you can only act on things you believe you have some control over. You cannot act on a complaint. A complaint is a dead end by design. It was never built to produce a next step. Let's talk numbers for a second, because this is a channel about billionaires, and billionaires think in numbers. Time is the only truly non-renewable resource any person has, rich or poor. Every single billionaire will tell you, in one way or another, that time became more valuable to them than money the moment they had enough money to notice. Now, think about what a complaint actually costs you in time. The average complaint conversation lasts somewhere between 2 and 10 minutes. Multiply that by the average person who complains, conservatively 10 to 15 times a day. That's potentially over an hour a day spent narrating problems instead of solving them. Over a year, that's hundreds of hours. Over a decade, that's thousands. Now here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. None of those hours produced a single solution. They produced temporary emotional relief and absolutely nothing else. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the world, a founder took that same hour and used it to send one more email, fix one more line of code, make one more sales call, or read one more chapter of a book that changed how they thought about their business. Multiply that gap by 10 years and you don't get a small difference, you get an entire different life. This is the compounding effect that nobody puts on a motivational poster. Because it's not glamorous. It's not wake up at 4 a.m. and grind. It's simpler and quieter than that. It's just stop spending your limited hours narrating your problems and start spending them solving your problems. Do that consistently for a decade, and the gap between you and the person still complaining becomes so large it looks like magic from the outside. It isn't magic, it's arithmetic. But here's the question you're probably asking right now, and it's the right question. Okay, but how? How do you actually stop complaining when something genuinely unfair happens to you? Because saying, just don't complain, is useless advice on its own. So let's break down the actual mental mechanism billionaires use, step by step, because this is the part you can start using today. Every high performer who has mastered this uses some version of the same 3-step mental process, whether they learned it from a mentor, a therapist, a book, or just brutal trial and error. Step 1. Separate the event from the story. Something happens, a deal falls through, a partner quits, a product launch fails. That is the event. It's neutral, it's just data. The story is everything your brain immediately attaches to that event. This always happens to me. I'm cursed. Nobody appreciates my work. The market is rigged against people like me. The event is real. The story is optional. Billionaires train themselves to notice the exact moment their brain starts writing a story and they interrupt it before it fully forms. That interruption is the entire skill. It sounds small. It is not small. It is everything. Step 2, ask the ownership question. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me, which has no useful answer and only fuels the complaint, they ask, what part of this was within my control, and what do I do next? This question is uncomfortable on purpose. It forces you to look at your own decisions, your own preparation, your own blind spots. Most people avoid this question because it can sting, but the sting is the price of admission to actually improving. You cannot fix what you refuse to examine. Step 3. Convert the emotion into fuel, not noise. Frustration, anger, disappointment, these are not signals to suppress, they are signals to redirect. Billionaires don't pretend they feel nothing. They take that raw emotional energy and pour it directly into the next action, instead of pouring it into a conversation, a rant, or a social media post. The emotion doesn't disappear, it just changes address. Instead of living in your mouth, it lives in your next move. Do this enough times and something remarkable happens. Complaining starts to feel foreign to you. It starts to feel like a waste of a resource you've come to respect deeply, your own attention. And once your attention feels sacred to you, you will guard it the way billionaires guard their money. There's another layer to this that most people never consider, and it has nothing to do with mindset and everything to do with strategy. When you complain publicly, you broadcast weakness. You tell the world exactly where you're struggling, exactly what's frustrating you, exactly where your insecurities live. In a business environment, that information is valuable to competitors, to employees deciding whether to trust your leadership, to investors deciding whether to bet on you. Extremely wealthy people learn early that discretion isn't just a personality trait, it's armor. Every time you keep a struggle private and simply solve it, you deny everyone around you a single data point about your weaknesses. Meanwhile, every time you solve something quietly and it later comes out that you handled a crisis without ever mentioning it, your reputation compounds in the opposite direction. People start to see you as someone who handles things, and someone who handles things is one of the most valuable reputations a human being can have in business or in life. Think about the people you trust most in your own life. I'd bet good money they aren't the loudest complainers you know. They're the calm ones, the ones who, when something goes wrong, just quietly start fixing it. That quality doesn't just earn respect, it earns opportunity. People hand responsibility, money, and trust to people who don't complain, because complaining signals that you might not be able to handle what you're given. Silence, paired with competence, signals the opposite. Now, here's a twist that might surprise you because it flips almost everything we just said on its head. Billionaires don't just avoid complaining about their problems. Many of them go one step further. They actively look for the very things that would make an ordinary person complain because they've learned something the rest of us haven't. Friction is where the profit hides. Think about the businesses you use every single day. A delivery app that saves you from waiting in traffic. Software that automates something tedious you used to complain about doing by hand. A faster checkout process for something that used to take forever. Every single one of those businesses exists because someone, somewhere, refused to just complain about an annoying problem. Instead, they asked the ownership question we just talked about. What do I do about this? And their answer wasn't a personal fix. Their answer was a company. This is one of the quiet secrets behind enormous fortunes. The everyday irritations that make most people sigh and vent to a friend are, to a certain kind of mind, a market signal. Annoyance is data. If something bothers you, it probably bothers thousands or millions of other people too. And somewhere in that shared frustration is a business model waiting to be built by whoever stops complaining long enough to build it. So the next time something genuinely annoys you, a slow process, a clunky tool, an inefficient system, try a different response than the one you're used to. Instead of venting about it, ask yourself, is this annoying enough and common enough that solving it could actually be valuable? You might not build a billion-dollar company from every irritation, but you will absolutely start training your brain to see problems as raw material instead as personal injustices. And that shift alone will change the quality of your thinking forever.
Now, I want to address something before we go further, because there's a version of this advice that gets thrown around online that honestly misses the point entirely. You've probably seen it, the forced, almost robotic positivity that insists you should be grateful for everything, all the time, no matter what. That's not what we're talking about here. Fake gratitude is just complaining's shallow cousin. It's performance. It doesn't actually change your internal wiring, it just changes your public face while the frustration festers quietly underneath.
Real gratitude, the kind that actually shows up in high performers, works differently. It's not about pretending bad things or secretly good. It's about recognizing, honestly and specifically, what is actually working in your life or your business, even while something else is broken. This matters because your brain, left unmanaged, has a strong negativity bias. It will fixate on the one broken thing and ignore the 9 things that are fine. Deliberately, specifically, naming what's working acts like a counterweight. It doesn't erase the problem, it just stops the problem from hijacking your entire perspective. This is why you'll often hear extremely successful people in interviews talk about a single setback with almost clinical detachment, and then in the same breath mention 3 things that are going right. That's not spin for the cameras, that's a mental habit built over years of refusing to let one data point define the entire picture. So here's the real question underneath everything we've covered so far, and I want you to actually sit with this one for a second instead of just scrolling past it. If complaining is this expensive in time, in reputation, in opportunity, in the very shape of your thinking, why does almost everyone still do it? The answer is uncomfortable, but it's the most important part of this entire video. Complaining is comfortable because it requires nothing from you. It's the path of zero accountability. If the problem is someone else's fault, then fixing it isn't your job. That's an incredibly seductive mental shortcut because fixing things is hard and blaming things is easy. Most people never make the switch to the billionaire mindset, not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they've never been forced to confront how much of their daily language is actually complaint disguised as conversation. Ugh, Mondays. Traffic was insane. My boss is impossible. The economy is ruining everything. None of these statements are lies necessarily, but none of them lead anywhere either. They're conversational dead ends dressed up as small talk. The people who break out of this pattern usually do it because something forces them to. A failure so big they can't blame it away. A mentor who calls it out directly. A book that hits at exactly the right moment. Or, more rarely, a simple decision. A decision to notice, just for 1 week, every time a complaint is about to leave their mouth and to replace it with a question instead. That 1-week experiment, by the way, is something you can start today, not next year, not when things calm down, today. And I promise you, if you actually do it, if you catch yourself mid-complaint just once a day and redirect it into, okay, what do I actually do about this? You will notice a shift in how capable you feel within 72 hours. It's almost unsettling how fast this works, because most people have never once tried it on purpose. Let's make this practical, because theory without application is just entertainment, and this channel isn't here to entertain you for 6 minutes and leave you exactly where you started. Imagine your flight gets canceled. The old pattern? Complain to the airline employee, complain to your travel companion, complain in a group chat, post about it online. Hours pass. Nothing changes except your mood, which is now worse, and your energy, which is now depleted for the rest of the day. The new pattern: acknowledge the frustration for exactly as long as it takes to feel it, a few seconds, not a few hours, then immediately pivot to logistics. What's the next available option? Who has the fastest way to solve this? Is there a productive use for this unexpected block of time? The event is identical in both scenarios. The outcome for your day, your mood, and your reputation with everyone around you is completely different. Imagine a business deal collapses at the last minute.
The old pattern, rehash it with everyone who will listen. Replay the injustice of it. Let it color your mood for the rest of the week. The new pattern, extract the lesson in the first hour. Identify exactly what you do differently, and then treat the deal as closed, not emotionally reopened every time you think about it for the next month. Imagine someone criticizes your work publicly. The old pattern, defend yourself loudly. Complain to everyone about how unfair the criticism was. Let it consume your attention for days. The new pattern, ask whether there's a single useful grain of truth buried in the criticism. Extract it if it exists, and discard the rest without giving it any more of your time than that single extraction required. None of these examples require you to be a billionaire. They require you to be willing to feel the discomfort of the ownership question instead of the temporary relief of the complaint. That's the entire trade. Discomfort now in exchange for capability later. Relief now in exchange for staying exactly where you are. And this brings us to the part of the video most people watching this will completely ignore, even though it's the single most important sentence in the entire script. This isn't actually about billionaires at all. Billionaires are simply the most visible, most extreme example of a mindset available to literally anyone at any income level starting today for free. You don't need capital to stop complaining. You don't need connections. You don't need a business idea or a Harvard degree or a rich uncle. You need exactly one decision, repeated daily, sometimes hourly, the decision to treat every frustration as a question instead of a story. That decision costs nothing, and it compounds exactly the way money compounds, slowly, invisibly, and then suddenly, all at once, in a way that looks to everyone else like luck. It isn't luck. It's the absence of a habit that quietly drains millions of people of their time, their reputation, and their momentum every single day without them ever realizing it's happening. So here's your actual assignment if you want to take anything real away from the next 6 minutes you spent watching this. For the next 7 days, every time you feel a complaint forming in your mind or on your lips, pause for exactly 3 seconds and ask one question. What do I actually do about this? You don't need to have the answer immediately. You don't need to solve it on the spot. You just need to interrupt the pattern. That interruption, repeated enough times, becomes a completely different way of moving through the world. It's the same interruption that, practiced for years instead of days, quietly built some of the largest fortunes on the planet, not because the people who built them were smarter or luckier than everyone else, but because they simply stopped spending their limited hours narrating problems and started spending them solving them. That's the mindset, not a hack, not a shortcut, just a decision, repeated until it becomes who you are. If this shifted the way you think even slightly, hit subscribe, because Billionaire Vibes breaks down exactly this kind of mental framework every single week. The invisible habits, decisions, and thought patterns that separate the people who build empires from the people who just talk about it. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one thing you usually complain about that you're going to turn into a question instead, starting today? I'll see you in the next one.